Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. This is the closing line, and we are ready to rock and roll. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We got a lot of information flowing through, and we got 1 hour to get through. And Kyle, over 80 people waiting, all ready to get in here and chop it up with us. I'm excited for week 9. It's nice weather, and we're ready to get it popping.
It's nice weather in the NFL. It is not nice weather here. Some of you might think I'm trying to dress up on a Sunday. I'm trying to stay alive because it is cold in this office, no matter how much I crank up the heat. But I'm excited. You're right. The games are going to be awesome. We don't have to deal with bad weather. We've got probably one of the games of the year tonight in the Saints and Bucs, probably the 2 best teams in the NFC, with those defensive problems in Seattle. I'll take that vice president job. I saw that too. You don't have to do anything. I'll take anything. Let Donnie handle all the nonsense, and I'll be the vice president. But I'm excited. There's a lot of good spots today, and I know you've got some pain later on, as you like to say, over there for us as well. So I'm excited for today.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff coming off. If you're a DFS player, if you're a gambler, these are the days you like. A lot of dome games, a lot of nice weather, and a lot of good matchups here that we can square off against. 107 people already watching live, less than 1 minute into the show. Love the fact that we now sit at 73,300 subscribers. We are gaining every single day. Sooner than you know it, we're going to be over 100,000, and we will continue to grow. And that's definitely advantageous because you guys in the chat box allow us to do this. We love to talk football, but if you guys didn't come in and support the show like you do, we wouldn't be able to do this. So we do thank you very much for doing that. Don't ask for any money, as we like to say, but if you have not subscribed and that button is still red that you're watching on YouTube, click that button, turn your notification bell on. Every time myself and Kyle go live talking NFL football, which we go live 4 days a week, you'll be able to get it delivered to your inbox and come in and say hello in the chat box. Comment wars, Nathan Cerna, Ryan, Aiden, James, David, Tony, Gerald. Let's keep going through here. Chase, Daniel, Eric. Let's see, Steven, comedian, Davey. Good Lord, everybody's in here. Jay, Gerald Martinez, Melissa Glenn, Mark Rock. Let's get after it and let's have some fun. We're not going to waste any more time here. And we got a good one live from Buffalo, 451, 452, the Seattle Seahawks and the Buffalo Bills, Russell Wilson and Josh Allen and Kyle. If I'm looking right here, it's November 8th. So I'm going to look into my crystal ball. 32 degrees, 21-mile-an-hour winds. Crazy, right? No, we're going to have a beach day in Buffalo today. And there you go. Opens up at 53 as a total, sitting at 55s across the board all week long. This number has bounced a little bit. 3.5s, 3s, 2.5s. Looks like we're settling in, Kyle, about an hour away from the game at -3 towards Seattle. And I agree with it. And this coming from a guy that loves Buffalo in this spot. Raucous crowd. Underdog Buffalo Bills, stingy defense, make some plays on offense and pull these out. But this isn't the way that it's shaping up this year for Buffalo. An offense that started out hot has sort of cooled off a little bit, but a defense that still hasn't gotten this traction down. And now you're going to face Russell Wilson. I've been burned already a few times this year by saying, hey, single-digit game. I think, now's the time we upset Seattle. I don't think it's the case here. In the past, I'd be all over Buffalo. Not today, Kyle. I like the Seahawks.
Yeah, I took the Seahawks. I took them early in the week. I think it's one of the better plays of the day. And you mentioned it. It's great weather. They're getting Jamal Adams back in that secondary. You mentioned the injuries for Buffalo, Josh Norman, Matt Milano, et cetera. And then you look at Seattle, they are going to be without Shaquille Griffin. That might actually help them because he's been absolutely dreadful this year. I think you see a lot of points in this game. This should be fun, but I cannot take, especially if this game gets close. Let's say it's, we talk about it all the time. It's a 4-point Seattle lead in the fourth quarter. We've seen Josh Allen fall apart in fourth quarters and make weird decisions. We do not see Russell Wilson fall apart in the fourth quarter. I like Seattle quite a bit today. I do think you see points on the board, high 20s and 30s from both teams. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully Buffalo can get their offense going so this game is more fun. They've kind of been anemic over the last several weeks. But this is the defense to get right against. Should see some points. I do like the over in this game, but the bet that I placed Seattle 2.5. I still like him at 3. I think Seattle wins this game by a touchdown or more on the road.
67, 68 degrees out in Buffalo, 5-mile-an-hour winds. So it is optimal conditions. But the problem that we have here is we can always say, yeah, we think there's going to be a lot of points. And I do. But just about everything has to go right to hit that 55 number. If we were sitting on maybe a 51.5, 52, but now you're looking in the mid-50s, which means theoretically both of these teams at least touching into the high 20s, which, again, they should be able to get there. But now you're talking in that territory, Kyle. Kyle, a missed field goal, a fumble in the red zone, and it's shot at that point. That's the only reason why I strayed away from either a team total on either one of these teams or the total over is because you need everything to be perfect. But I do like the fact that the Seattle Seahawks are favored here by 3. One possession game, Big Russ is going to come up, even though they don't have their running backs healthy. As long as they get serviceable action from DJ Dallas, those 2 guys on the outside eat. Russell Wilson, it doesn't matter if there's a pass rush, he gets away from it. I trust Russell Wilson more than I do Josh Allen. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, 100%. And I think this is Tyler Lockett day. I mentioned this over and over this week. I still think DK Metcalf has a solid day, but again, he's going to see the shadow coverage from Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White has really stepped it up, especially the past several weeks. That back seems to be getting better, giving up, 0.16 fantasy points per route ran against. He's only targeted on 11% of his defensive snaps. Tyler Lockett is going to get that advantage with Teron Johnson and Levi Wallace. I think you see a big day out of Tyler Lockett without those running backs. And yes, we would bench Zeke today. I benched Zeke. I benched him for Devin Singletary, and I didn't. I hate doing it, but questionable hammy against that run defense. We'll get to that later. But I like Tyler Lockett day, and I like the Seattle Seahawks.
Great game right off the bat here, 1 o'clock. Let's shift it down to Atlanta here, 4:53, 4:54. Denver and the Atlanta Falcons, Locke and Matt Ryan. You saw last week, nice comeback from Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. Getting a little bit of help this week because you saw Phillip Lindsay down with another injury. It seems like he gets injured each and every week. He's good to go and active, but also a key contributor, Tim Patrick at wide receiver to sort of open up that offense to go along with Jerry Jeudy and a nice tight end in Noah Fant. You have 2 decent bookend tackles and also some guys down now on the defensive line. Takk McKinley, who hasn't played in a couple weeks anyway, and they're basically looking to cut. He's obviously been out, but Dante Fowler also out as well as defensive end. So maybe that pass rush won't be as effective today. But the bigger news on the opposite side is, yes, Calvin Ridley is out, but you're getting a healthy Julio Jones. And why is that important? Because you have no Bryce Callahan and no A.J. Bouye. If you know anything about A.J. Bouye from the past couple years of Jalen Ramsey, he's a really good cornerback. He's out with concussion. But maybe you haven't heard of Bryce Callahan, one of the highest rated cover corners in the NFL, not going to go. Now you're going to be down 2 cornerbacks in a key environment where Julio wants to eat. So I look at that over-under that opened up at 47.5, was as high as around that 50 range, still hovering in that territory. Dipped down a little bit yesterday, but that has to be a boost if you're looking for offense, specifically in a dome. Earlier in the week, I did like the Denver Broncos getting the 3.5. I do have them in my pick 6 contest, but if I would have waited and saw the information coming in now, which I do like the ads on offense for Denver, but boy, you're going to talk about being down 2 cornerbacks. That's a tough environment versus Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. They should be able to eat. I think we get points in this game. I think they can get over the 50 here, both teams touching into the 20s.
Yeah, I like Denver a lot early in the week. But now, if you're going to let Julio Jones run out there against these corners and he's healthy, even without Calvin Ridley, you're going to see the Christian Blakes and the Zacchaeus and Russell Gage, of course. I want to switch to Atlanta. I ended up staying away from this game overall. If I was making a bet on this, I would take the over. I'm seeing 49.5s and 50s. I like that total. I think both these defenses are vulnerable. They're in the dome. Drew Lock seemed to get on a roll last week. If I was picking a side, I'd probably still lean Denver to cover, although I do think Atlanta could win. Now it's at 4.5. It makes me really nervous. I just don't know that I can lay any points on Atlanta anymore. I'm not falling for that trap, and I wanted to take Denver. Now with that beat-up secondary playing right into the strength of the Atlanta offense, it makes it tenuous at best. So I will take the over for the overall total here and probably stay away from each side. If I had to pick one, I guess I'm picking Drew Lock and the Broncos, and I hope they play well because I got them in a bunch of DFS this week. Drew Lock to Jerry Jeudy to get some of that value and win that $1 million. Let's go.
Yeah, it's nice because if you didn't know, Tim Patrick actually leads the team in receptions, missed last week with a hamstring injury, and they were still able to have a really nice offensive output versus the Chargers. We'll see if that continues today in the Dome, but I think there is more of a propensity to be points in this game than the game staying under, and it's nice to get Phillip Lindsay back because when he's healthy and in that offense, he's a big play threat, and you saw last week, a 40 or 50-yard run that he did have versus the Chargers, which actually sparked the comeback. We'll see if he stays in it. The week before versus Kansas City in the snow game, I think he had like 7 or 8 carries for close to 80 yards in that game, but got knocked out with a concussion, so sat out the second half. We'll see if he's able to complete the full game because you have the semblance of a decent offense for Denver and certainly a semblance of a decent offense for the Atlanta Falcons. And again, Falcons now sit at that 4 range, Kyle, when we were looking at those 3s to 3.5s earlier in the week. So big news information coming out late. We'll see what happens in that game. Moving down to Tennessee and in Nashville, 4:55, 4:56, Chicago Chicago and Tennessee. Foles going up against Tannehill in this one. Not a lot of good information here coming out for the Chicago Bears, Kyle. Decimated on their offensive line, but also big news coming from the Tennessee side on the defensive line, which didn't show up for work last week versus Cincinnati Bengals. Now going to be down Jadeveon Clowney and a couple banged up pieces as well on offense. Usually when I look at this game, I say, how can I take Tennessee? They should be able to, at least they're going to have a semblance of an offense and they're the home team. But I got to tell you, like sneaky on the Bears, 50-50 ticket split in this game, sixes across the board, hasn't moved all that much. We saw a bounce from like 6.5 to 5.5, but it looks like it's going to settle in around 46.5. I don't like the Chicago Bears overall, but the fact of the matter is they should be able to move the football against the Tennessee Titans. Do I think they can win the game outright? That's going to be a little bit of a struggle. And again, anything south of 7 points, if you don't think the team is going to win the football game, has the chance to win the football game, you probably shouldn't be betting it. I'm not betting it, but just looking at the game itself, I think I'm going to lean on the Bears getting the 6 points in this game. 46.5. Ooh. Hard to take an under in the Tennessee game. So I still, even though the Bears are that, 3 yards in a cloud of dust on offense, 46.5, as long as it stays under 47, I'll lean over and I'll take the Bears in this one, getting the 6.
Yeah, I mean, something's got to give, right? You've got BDN, Nick Foles, and he sucks, right? I mean, Nick Foles sucks. Let's just call it what it is. He's not a good quarterback, and, if Mitchell Trubisky's hurt, so good Lord. But then you look at the Tennessee defense, and they stink. They have the lowest sack rate in the NFL. That secondary is absolutely atrocious. And I see it in the chat, all they have to do is stop Allen Robinson. Tennessee hasn't stopped a wide receiver all year long. They cannot stop anyone defensively. So you think just by default, with having that good defense and playing against a weak defense on the other side, that Chicago should be able to keep this as a game. I'm with you. I stayed the hell away from this game. I have no interest in betting this game, but me picking a side, I will take the points. I just don't think the Tennessee defense is good enough to blow out the Bears. So I could see another close game where both teams put up points. I do think the total's a little low. That's probably more relative to people talking about the Bears defense as opposed to the Titans. Oh, God, it's an ugly game for me. Stay the hell away from it. But if I'm picking a side, which is what we do here, I'll take Chicago in the points.
James Sankis, Bears backdoor cover, most points in the fourth quarter this year. We'll see if it plays out that way. They had a double-digit lead last week versus New Orleans Saints, let it slip away. But again, they got the almighty cover at the end of the football game, and that's really all that matters. They'll be playing that same role today. We'll see what kind of effort we get out of Khalil Mack, who's been banging around each and every game here. Hurt knee, hurt hamstring. We'll see if he comes to play because that'll be a key indicator in this one. But again, getting back to the original point here, if you're down on the offensive line, like the Bengals, right, Kyle? We're down on the offensive line last week. You still need somebody to hit home and really dominate a beat-up offensive line. They couldn't do it last week versus Cincinnati. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they can reverse roles and do it against Chicago this week. Joe Burrow, a little bit more athletic, able to get away, and we saw him make some miraculous plays last week. Nick Foles not going to be able to do that, so we'll see how that factors into this game. Titans, to me, the better team, but I don't know if they're a touchdown better in this environment here. Let's keep it moving to a dome. And again, not talking about too many bad weather conditions because half the games are damn near in a dome anyway. And we're going to get to another one here. Detroit, Matthew Stafford had to clear 5 straight days of concussion protocol. He did. Probably thought he was going to anyway, right? If he didn't test positive, there's a good chance that he's going to stay away. He's a veteran quarterback. The only thing that does really hurt, though, is you don't get those install periods with that predictive offense that you're going to have going up against the Minnesota Vikings. You work with more of a backup quarterback, but he's going to be able to jump in today. He is active and ready to go going up against Kirk Cousins. The one thing that I really like about the Minnesota Vikings is when all their pieces are ready to go, which they are, 2 really good wide receivers, a couple decent tight ends. When Kirk Cousins has the ability to throw the football, isn't under siege, and can also hand off to Dalvin Cook and work play action off of Dalvin Cook, which is the best play they have. He was absolutely dominant last week. No ill will, no wear and tear from that game. Now going to step back on turf. And it's interesting to see, Kyle, the 3.5s that went to 4s, 4.5s, and a little bit of 5s, now dipping back. And even at FanDuel here in New Jersey, I'm showing a -3, -120 for the Minnesota Vikings. Do I like the Vikings defense? No, I think it stinks. Is their secondary banged up? Absolutely they are. But when I look at that Detroit team on defense, I just trust the Minnesota offense more than I do the Detroit offense, obviously without Kenny Golladay. Will there be points in this game? I think there's going to be some points, but I'm not taking Detroit on the road getting 3 points. I think Minnesota wins this football game. I'll go with Minnesota laying the points, and I do think it gets under the 51, which now sits at pinnacle here. So I think that's a pretty good number as well.
Yeah, that's a good. I think I agree with the number, and of course, I agree with the line movement now with Matthew Stafford back. But again, no Kenny Golladay, so it's Marvin Hall and Quinton.
Yeah, baby.
Hey. I've got Marvin Hall in some DFS lineups. The real risk there is, when Galladay missed the first couple of weeks earlier this year, it was Quintez Cephas who started and not Marvin Hall. But Marvin Hall looked pretty good last week. You could see some big plays to him. And again, that Minnesota secondary is absolutely demolished. They're not any good anyways when they're at full strength. Now, of course, they're down a couple of players again this week. But it's going to be the Dalvin Cook show. And the Detroit Lions stink against the run. They stink against the pass. I think you got to take the home team and the Vikings. Now, I will say this. The Vikings have given me fits all year long. It's one of those teams I can't seem to get right. I think they're going to play well. Then they play like shit, blah, 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 blah. Happens over and over again. I think they get right. I think they beat Matthew Stafford. You don't trust Matthew Stafford on the road unless they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's the bottom line. That's basically the only team you can trust them against. We hit on that earlier this year. I like the Minnesota Vikings. The matchups on the outside, just Jefferson and Thielen should be able to do whatever they want. I see a lot of first downs, high third down conversions, good sustained drives with Dalvin Cook running up the gut here on Detroit. I like the Vikings, and I think the 3 is nice. I'm even seeing some plus numbers at 3.5 over at Intertops. You're getting a plus 100 minus 3.5. I'm all right with that too.
Yeah, last 2 games that they had Dalvin Cook healthy versus Houston, 31-23 victory, and then also against Green Bay, 28-22. They are a completely different team. And we all thought, sometimes you bite off a little bit more, you could chew. Madison's going to be a pretty good fill in here. He can handle the load. Nobody's Dalvin Cook. When you have the ability to just throw a simple toss sweep out and take it 60 to 70 yards and break games open, he has the ability to do that. Now, as I'm talking right now, 3s are across the board now, minus 107, minus 119. So people lining up to take Matthew Stafford, I don't see it. And hey, maybe it's sharp money coming in. Good luck to them as well. But if you're going to give me 3s across the board, that means Detroit has to win this football game. I don't think they can do it, but I do hope there are some points in this game here as well. Now, here's the game, the pivotal matchup. I gave this out as my banker of the week on Friday. This line has been moving back and forth all week. Opened up at a -3, shifted to a -1.5, over to a dog for the Baltimore Ravens, and then back again here as a dog to the Baltimore Ravens this morning. That's Baltimore and Indianapolis, 459, 460. 65% of the tickets here coming in on the Baltimore Ravens. And as I said again, Indianapolis now favored at -1. I preface this by saying I probably won more money myself this year from betting on the Colts because you know what you get. If you can keep a clean pocket for Phillip Rivers and play in a dome, that's where it's advantageous to take the Indianapolis Colts. I do agree with that. Frank Reich, one of the best game planners in the NFL, he will have something planned and ready to go for Baltimore. But when I take a look at Baltimore, how do you beat them? They lost last week to the Steelers, Kyle, right? Outgained the Steelers by damn near 2-1. Threw a pick 6, threw a dumb interception for Lamar Jackson, which you will get, and also had a fumble inside the 5-yard line, which helped buoy that game. And also keep, again, in mind, at the end of the football game, the Ravens still had a chance to win. Or if you are the Kansas City Chiefs and you have a quarterback with an electric arm that could throw laser beams 70 yards down the field over your coverage. Correct me if I'm wrong. You ain't that athletic at quarterback today, and you don't have a quarterback that can really stretch the field, and you also don't have wide receivers, i.e. T.Y. Hilton, that are active and ready to stretch that field. So I think that bully ball will come into play today. Both of these teams can stop the run, but when I look at the Indianapolis Colts at home in this game versus the Baltimore Ravens, I just see a lot of speed on the offense for the Ravens that can get away from that pass rush and that stingy defense. That Ravens offense is not built to play at wide receiver, for instance, in the rain and wet and sloppy conditions. They're going to be on a fast track today. That should prove pivotal. Lamar Jackson should be gritty, as I like to say, in the ground game, 65-plus yards on top of that. And also keep in mind here, the Baltimore Ravens have 9 straight wins on the road. No stranger to going on the road and certainly pumping their fist here. I still like the Baltimore Ravens. I don't care, Kyle, that line shifted over to Indianapolis. I'm still taking them.
Yeah, I think that's just the wrong move. And look, if sharp money's coming in on that, good luck to them. I just think Baltimore is the better team. And this does not play into the strengths of the Indianapolis Colts at all. It's going to be a struggle to run the football in Baltimore. We already know that. Baltimore has a good pass rush. We know that. So I think you see some turnovers from Phillip Rivers today. I think you see an overwhelmed Phillip Rivers today. The only chance that they'll have, maybe they're within 6 or 7 points at the end of the game. And then it's going to be what has basically been the story of Phillip Rivers' entire career. Down by 6 points, 18 seconds left, 95 yards to go, and no timeouts. That's basically Phillip Rivers' career. And I could easily see that happening today. I think Baltimore is better across the board. I like the Ravens, and if you can get points, even if it's 1, just take it. And, if you start getting extra value on that money line because of it, take it. Because I think Baltimore wins this. They win it easy. I bet it earlier in the week at -2.5. Yeah. So I got some negative adjusted line value there. which is unfortunate. You never want that, but I still feel good about that pick. I think Baltimore wins this game pretty easy. You just can't trust Phillip Rivers against these aggressive defenses. I think it's going to be a long day for Phillip Rivers trying to throw the ball to Zach Pascal and Marcus Johnson if he ends up being active, and Michael Pittman, the rookie. Yeah, good luck. Give me Baltimore.
Yeah, Marvin Humphrey down in this game, their best cornerback overall to me. And is that a big issue? Yes, it is. But it's more of an issue if he's got to line up against Tyreek Hill or an elite passing game, which you're not going to have. But again, as I said, Frank Reich schemes better than anybody in the NFL. They have an elite offensive line. They'll be able to keep that team at bay. But when I look at a team that how you need to be constructed to beat the Baltimore Ravens, it's taking chances downfield. It's not here, let me hand off and see if I can get the 3rd and 3s. That's a bully ball defense that you need to be aggressive with and go over the top. I just don't know if Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts can get it done. Over under this one rose up this week, Kyle. 45s now sitting at 48s primarily across the board, getting into that teetering territory. But having said that, I just don't see Baltimore at 17 points. It's just not what they do. Like, even if Lamar Jackson doesn't have a good game, which he didn't have versus the Steelers, they put up over 450 yards in that game, or close to 450 yards against the Steelers defense in some rainy, wet conditions. Now you're putting him in a dome. I think we get points in this game. I would lean more towards the over than the under in this one. But again, getting back to my original, analysis here, I like the Baltimore Ravens. And you're right. You said you got it at 2.5. I got it at 1.5. We think they're going to win the football game. We're not capping games and say, hey, they're going to win 30-28. It's just not the way it's done in the NFL. I think they win by a field goal or more here, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, me too. And I kind of like the team total for Baltimore. We sort of talked about that. I like that quite a bit. So you figure if they get to 24, will the Colts? Now, I can see the Colts in the teens. It won't shock me at all if the Colts have, between 14 and 17 points. I don't know how that offense is going to move the ball against this defense. I know Baltimore has had some issues, and of course they are without Ronnie Stanley, their all-pro left tackle who got hurt. He's going to be out for the year. I just don't think it matters. I think when you get an aggressive team against Phillip Rivers, trust me, you're going to see a lot of lame ducks thrown up there, maybe a dropped interception or two. They're going to snag at least one of them. I think it's a long day and a frustrating day. You're going to see a lot of screaming on the sideline from Phillip Rivers. He loves to do that. Baltimore wins this game. They're just a better, more aggressive team. And Lamar Jackson, when you have two good defenses, the Colts, by the way, are an excellent defense, especially with Darius Leonard back. But if they're going to try to bring pressure and put pressure on Lamar Jackson, he's going to make them pay. When you put pressure on Phillip Rivers, good things happen for your team. So I like Baltimore.
Yeah, when you take a look also, because you talk about heavyweight fights, which this should be one. But when you look at the Colts, I like them. But Jacksonville, Minnesota, before they could get out of their own way in game 2, the New York Jets, the Chicago Bears, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Detroit. Not exactly teams that you would say, you know what, I'm really building my resume here. And even taking a look in the last 3 weeks, the vaunted defense by the Colts, 32 points to Cleveland, 27 points to Cincinnati, and last week to Detroit, again, pretty much without Kenny Golladay, 21 points in that game as well. They're not exactly slamming the door, and you're not playing the Jets, and you're not playing the Chicago Bears. You're going to get an elite offense in here that's going to be healthy at wide receiver, healthy at tight end, and also has 2 capable running backs. Because a lot of people will look at, most casual fans, well, hey, Mark Ingram's out, they can't run the football. If you watch last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they moved it up and down the field on the ground. That same attack is going to come today. J.K. Dobbins looks sensational, but I'm really, Kyle, looking forward to that game at 1 o'clock. That's a pretty good one that we can zero in on. Now, this next game we're going to talk about has been real interesting with line movement. Carolina and Kansas City, 461, 462. Teddy Bridgewater going to go in and play the Kansas City Chiefs. Last time we saw the Carolina Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater taking a loss on Thursday Night Football versus the Atlanta Falcons. Get a couple extra days to prepare. It's always hard going against Kansas City in Kansas City, but look at the line movement here. Pinnacle opens up offshore at SBRodds.com, minus 11.5, dips to 10.5, 10s, and even FanDuel, Kyle, in New Jersey, showing a minus 9, minus 115. So now under double digits for Kansas City. I know we love Christian McCaffrey. He's a fantastic running back. They say he's healthy and ready to go. Davis has been a more than capable backup. So you have both of those guys, a decent set of wide receivers. So theoretically, you should be in this ball game. Now, I question it by saying there's almost no number too high for Kansas City. Because if you play with them and you force the issue and say, you know what, the other team is in it, they're going to put up 24 points in this game, Kansas City's not going to be on the teens. So you figure Kansas City would be in the high 20s, at least low 30s in this game. Last week playing the New York Jets, they didn't have to do anything. They just put it in cruise control for the entire final quarter and still ended up with 35 points in this game. So my question to you, Kyle, is why are we looking only at a 51 here as a total and some outlets at 50.5?
I don't know. I'm pissed because I took the over 53 earlier in the week because I think you're right. I think Carolina can respond. Kansas City actually does struggle against the run, so it really helps Carolina to get Christian McCaffrey back. They allow 4.6 yards per carry. Their secondary is very good. Rashad Breeland's been really good since he came back. Charvarius Ward's been sort of beat up on the outside. I do think Carolina can put up points and keep this game competitive. I actually took Carolina the plus 10.5 as well. Carolina plays 76% of the time they play a zone cover 3. So you're not going to see these huge over-the-top plays unless, Mahomes launches at 80 yards and Tyreek Hill catches in stride there. It's always possible with the Chiefs, but Carolina plays a defense that combats that a little bit. So I think this game is more competitive. Kansas City's going to have to be a little bit more methodical, which I think they do. Travis Kelce should have a big game today, but I like Carolina scoring back the other way. I think the Chiefs win this game, but it's more of a touchdown game, more of like a 34-27 type of game. I think it goes over the 51.5. I'm really pissed I didn't wait and just take this later in the week. I took the over 53. A little nervous about that because you're right. A missed field goal, a fumble in the red zone. It makes things a little precocious there, but I will take Carolina the plus 10.5, and I took the over in this game at 53.
Yeah, Frank Clark's going to give it a go this week also, and you took a look at Chris Jones early in the week that was in that COVID, close to Rick Burkhalter, the trainer, but he was cleared the next day. So they are full go on defense, and I don't think their defense gets enough credit as they should because when you look at overall, you can run the ball in the Kansas City Chiefs, but they only give up 201 yards passing per game, and they're ahead a lot in these football games, which usually means that number might get inflated because in the fourth quarter, like the Jets game, you're up 3-4 touchdowns. You don't really care how many yards the offense gets as long as that clock runs out. But when I look at the offense for Kansas City, they turned it off last week, 446 yards in the air and 35 points. They could have hung 60 on the Jets last week. You look at the Denver game, 43 points they scored in the snow in Mile High against a decent defense that was healthy and ready to go in that ball game. And then you take a look at Buffalo, 26 points. We watched this game on Monday Night Football, not the greatest weather conditions, and they didn't have to do much because Buffalo couldn't answer. And then you take a look at even in the loss to Las Vegas, 32 points. So it's hard to look at a 50-point game and say, well, I can almost pencil in Kansas City to get 30. We'll see if Carolina can come to the plate here, but I do think their offense is functional. And now getting back Christian McCaffrey, it's interesting to see that number at 51, 72, 73 degrees out there at Arrowhead. A little bit windier conditions in the high teens, but certainly not enough to stop. I mean, Patrick Mahomes could throw in a hurricane. So it's an odd game. I do sort of agree with you taking the 10 points. I can't ever fault that because you do think Carolina is going to be in the game or competent enough to get a backdoor cover. But Patrick Mahomes and offense moves up and down the field. A fun game to watch, just a little bit puzzled at that 51 number. I think it gets over the total. Let's go to it. From some of these really fun games that we've been talking about to a game with a lot of mystery, and maybe it just stays off the TV, and that can't be a mystery. 463, 464, Houston and Jacksonville. Jake Luton's going to get the go. So even if you were a Minshew mania guy, not going to see him in action today. They say he looks great in practice, looks ready to go. But you know what I heard, Kyle, last week? Check out Ben DiNucci slinging it in practice. He slung it really good in that game. So now you're going to put your money and your faith and say, I just saw Ben, which you can't really put quarterbacks to quarterbacks because you set the bar extremely low when you look at maybe one of the worst starts we've ever seen in the last 20 years at Ben DiNucci and say, well, wait a second. This guy was only drafted like 30 players ahead roughly, one round, hasn't played in the NFL. Now he's going to get his taste of NFL action heading into this game. Houston is not a very good defensive team, but you still need a guy that's able to have pitch and catch and move the football up and down the field and has seen some of these defenses. The one thing I don't think is going to be an issue is Houston should be able to move the football against Jacksonville. It was nice to see that they didn't dismantle their offensive wide receiver weapons and trade them off over the break. So Deshaun Watson should be healthy. Their wide receivers should be healthy. But here's the problem. You see the 49, Kyle. Gardner Minshew's playing this game and healthy. We are banging that over under like crazy because both of these teams will theoretically be in the 20s and one team pushing at least towards 30. I think Houston should be able to win this game and win it comfortably, but the unknown of a 6th-round quarterback making his first start, I don't want to have the Ben DiNucci effect going in the third quarter. Like, the hell did I do? And trust my money with this guy who probably shouldn't be an NFL player.
Yeah, you don't want to put your mouton on the Luton. I don't blame you there. One thing I will say, I guess in Jacksonville's favor for their offense, Houston's best defensive back, Bradley Roby, is not going to play in this game today. So that's going to help a little bit on the outside, make things a little easier for guys like DJ Chark and Chenault, Chris Conley, etc. Yeah, you got to take Houston here. I do not trust the over because you're right. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Jake Luton. Houston does struggle against the run. Should be, if he's just at least a little bit competent, it should open things up quite a bit for James Robinson. Houston is absolutely terrible against the run. It's a weird game, a lot of unknowns. You would expect Houston and Deshaun Watson and a mostly healthy football team to have their way with Jake Luton. They just did a few weeks back as well. They were able to easily win that game against the Gardner Minshew-led Jaguars. Of course, we're finding out apparently he was one of those, side effects from those pills that you see on TV with all those injuries. We'll call them the side effect, I suppose. But got to take Houston right here. I didn't feel good enough to just bet straight on this game. I did make it a couple of parlays. I bought a couple points, some of those, crazy 8-9 team parlays that I like to do just for fun. And I have Houston as a part of that. But zero chance I'm putting any money on Jacksonville, and zero chance I trust anything coming out of that football team besides maybe James Robinson.
Yeah, and unless you're just a complete contrarian player. Now, Jacksonville's coming off a bye, which, rest usually helps teams in the NFL. But when I look at the defensive side of the football for Jacksonville, because you're going up against a guy that's an elite quarterback, that means if the rush comes down, he can make a play. He can extend the play. They have some wide receivers that can get open, and there's not much resistance. Last 5 games for Jacksonville, Kyle, 31 points versus Miami, 33 points versus Cincinnati, 30 versus this Houston club, 34 versus Detroit, 39 versus the Chargers. So where is the resistance coming? The differentiating part of that is, at least even though Minshew was banged up, he was still at least trying to take shots, and a boomer bust quarterback like our man Ryan Fitzpatrick is great in these type of environments. And that's why I call him, Ryan Fitzpatrick light. He's not there. So usually when you get a rookie quarterback who's not the number 1 overall pick like Joe Burrow is, hey, let's see what he's got. Let's let him throw 40 times. Aren't you trying to protect him, use play action, short dump offs, screen plays, use your running back? Because again, Houston is not the Pittsburgh Steelers where you got to get all that creative. I just don't know if they're going to push the gas on offense with Jacksonville. But looking at the way their defense does, they should. Doug Marrone says we're going to open the offense up, but I can't trust them enough to do that. I would love to take this over. I would.
Yeah, me too, but I'm just not going to touch it. And Doug, there's a lot of coaches you can't trust in the league, and Doug Marrone would be at the top. That guy is full of crap all the time. He has been since he was with Buffalo. So yeah, you can tell me, the sun is shining out of the ass of Jake Luton. I'm not going to buy it until I see it. Now, it's a good defense to go up against. If you're looking at, Tua last week debuting against a really tough Rams defense, don't like that a whole lot, and that's a tougher matchup. Now you get to debut against a very, very beatable Houston defense. So it's a friendly matchup. Just don't know what you're going to get. Right now, I got to take the Texans, and I like those 6.5s obviously a lot more than I like those 7s. That half point makes a big, not as big of a difference as it used to make with all the missed extra points and 2-point conversions, etc. But I like Houston, and personally, I stayed away from it except for a couple little crazy parlays just for fun.
Yeah, and again, 2020 can't get any worse here. A little breaking news on Twitter. Alex Trebek from Jeopardy has passed away this morning. So terrible news there. But we are a live show. We are men of the people, and we do enjoy pop culture out there. So what a shame that is for Alex Trebek to pass away. And fittingly, he does it as we talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars and that poor game there. So prayers up to the family of Alex Trebek, but that is a tough loss here for many people that have watched there. Let's keep moving here. 465, 466, the New York Giants and the Washington Redskins. Daniel Jones and Kyle Allen fought hard. Look, this year, the New York Giants, they stink as a football team. I don't like their head coach, but if there's one thing I can put in the checkmark column is at least they're playing hard for the New York Giants. But playing hard in the NFL still will get you fired without any results. You take a look at this football game here. It's the perfect line. I've said it all week, Kyle. The 42s, the 43s, the 41.5s, the 3s across the board. I don't have a true read on this game. I do think Washington overall is the better football team. Rested and ready in that front 7 should be able to get pressure on Daniel Jones. Not enough to wager on it. I'm not sure the Giants can go in and win this football game in Washington. It was a tough toe-to-toe game last time they met. Now Washington has seen them, obviously seen the game plan, had an extra week to prepare, coming in a little bit more healthy. But I'm not ready to take the Washington Redskins to win a football game by theoretically 4 to 7 points to cash your ticket. I still lean towards the Redskins, but I think it's the perfect game on the card that I looked at all week and say, you know what, Kyle, I can flip a coin and make a decision both ways in this. I'll stay away. But for show purposes, I like Washington. And I lean on the 43 is really low. I lean on the over in this game. I do. Yeah,
that's the one thing I looked at. Like, I stayed away from this game as well. The Kyle Allen versus Daniel Jones show is something I'll pass on. Then you see the Giants, you've got their high school head coach and Joe Judge, getting mad because Golden Tate's wife said throw him the ball, and so now he's not going to be active. What an absolute joke. I mean, this guy, and I see all this praise for him. Well, what a wonderful coach. He's great. And he's like, this guy is an absolute moron. Like, basically abuses old people and treats his players like crap. I mean, that's Joe Judge. Give me a break. So a lot of nonsense there. I just think Washington will fight harder for your dollar. Like, again, I stayed away from this game. I would take anytime I see an over in the low 40s, now you're like, ooh, it's finally a gift from the NFL gods, because you just don't see it very much anymore. At least we haven't this season. It's all these 50s and 53s and 51s. So I'd lean the Washington side. I just think they're playing harder for Ron Rivera. Certainly more weapons for the Giants, I suppose, when you look at the Slaytons, the Shepherds, and the Ingrams compared to the Gibsons, the McLaurins, and the Logan Thomases and Kyle Allen. Couple of terrible football teams. I'll take Washington for purposes of this show, but I wouldn't actually put any of my money on it. And man, really bummed to hear about Alex Trebek. I got to tell you, that's just.
Well, this will cheer you up here. About 500 people are watching along with us and getting through this and talking a little bit of NFL football, because that's what we're here for. Both myself and Kyle come in here and we talk, not real life stuff, as we like to say. It's sort of an outlet here that you can come together as a sports betting community, share your thoughts and feelings on everything. The Washington Redskins and New York Giants to pop culture here. So sad day this morning, it is what it is. And,
National
life
treasure
on for us there. National treasure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Every single night the guy was on and, fighting his battle, and, good for him there. Made it 80 years and fought hard. 467, 468. The Las Vegas Raiders start the 4:00 shift here versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Carr versus Herbert. Hey, Herbert's been really good here, but now we got a little bit, you can breathe a sigh of relief, because it looks like Keenan Allen is going to go today after a little bit of a COVID scare yesterday. Had the sore throat. They kept him away from the team. They said, look, got to pass a couple tests. He did that, so he will be active today. How under the weather is he? Maybe the common flu, or, hey, any fun run? Trust me, any fun running around when you got some strep throat or some, throat that you just can't swallow and get through it. That's might be a hindrance to him today. But the line has moved. Opened up as a soft -3 at SBRodds.com for the Chargers early in the week. That's completely shifted over to the Raiders at -1. And I agree with that line movement, because I look at two different mindsets here in the locker room, Kyle, that we talk about a lot. One team that's trading guys away, really good defenders that aren't going to play, versus another team that's getting hungrier by the week, saying playoffs are in order. Chargers ain't looking at saying, hey, we can get to the playoffs. They're looking to see if their young quarterback can still sling it around, make that advance. And maybe next year, if you get a new head football coach and you stay healthy, you get some fans in the stands, you can finally make a run for the Chargers. But I just look as a different mindset. I think the Raiders overall are the better football team, can control the game on the ground, make enough plays with their wide receivers and tight ends. I think they win this game. And also, you can never look at that confidence factor enough. If they get up or get a lead, or they're up 7 points, just say, with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the Chargers saying to themselves, Kyle, oh my goodness, here we go again, a first down by the Raiders. We can't win, because most teams in that spot relish that and say, we're up 7, let me feast, let me sack this quarterback, let's get off the field. That's not the case. I like the Raiders today in this game.
Yeah, I took the Raiders out of Pick'em. It's one of my picks today. I took it in the pick 6 as well. You look at the Chargers as well, a good chance that they're without their best defensive back and Casey Hayward. So that's another big loss for them. He's questionable with a personal issue, doesn't appear to be an injury, so we'll have to see. I just like the Raiders. The Raiders are finding ways to win, and the Chargers are the Falcons of the AFC. They're finding ways to lose. They're finding ways to lose big leads. I think if the Raiders get ahead in this game, they can rely on Josh Jacobs in that running game. You look at the Chargers, it's going to be all Justin Herbert, a little bit of Justin Jackson out of the backfield. I actually like him for DFS purposes at 4,900. I think he gets several targets, gets some carries today. Obviously, no Troymaine Pope. Joey Bosa is also doubtful. Now, he's not going to play in this game with a concussion, most likely. So it makes things a whole lot easier on Derek Carr. And where's all the Raiders guys who say I hate the Raiders? This is what, the third week in a row? Yes. I picked the Raiders. I'm picking the Raiders. I mean, if you'd have told me start the year, I'd be taking the Raiders over the Chargers. I'd probably tell you you're crazy. But I like the Raiders in this game. I just think they're trending the right direction. Like you said, they have the confidence. I like the Raiders in this game. I think it's fun. I think the total is certainly in play. Now, again, it's two younger teams and and a rookie quarterback. So you got to hope that there's not those mistakes, and that 52.5 is a little bit scary to get to. I guess I would lean the over there, but I think that this is a fun game. I think there's points in this game. I like stacking this game in that afternoon slate as well. If you're playing DFS, I think this is the higher scoring game of the 3 in that afternoon slate. But I'm going to take the Raiders. Let's go Oakland.
And I think it makes sense in this environment too, because I do like the over, because when we talk about John Gruden and a lot of things, which I really appreciated last week, because I saw it for 15 years in Philadelphia, if there was 30-mile-an-hour winds and rain, Andy Reid would throw Donovan McNabb out there and say, you know what, let's throw 50 times and get beat by teams like the old school Cincinnati Bengals, which are horrendous. It was really nice to see Gruden go out and say, I'm going to hold back here. I'm going to trust my offensive line. I'm going to trust my running game and my defense and win. That was great. But now he's saying, let me show up to this brand new palace in Los Angeles, get in here, perfect conditions in a dome on turf. And some of those guys that weren't able to explode last week, the Ruggses of the world, Aguilars, Wallers, they're going to be able to get their play action pass shots off. And I do think we get some points, because the one thing that you like is Herbert, not your average rookie out here. This kid can sling it and go for would you be, here's another game that we like to play, surprised. Would you be surprised if Herbert's yards passing were under 275 or over 275 in this game?
Oh, I'd be surprised if it was under. I mean, you look at all the running back issues, and you look at the matchup too. If Keenan Allen's going to go, then also, Trayvon Mullen is battling a hamstring issue for the Raiders as well. You look at LaMarcus Joyner in the slot, very, very beatable. Herbert's going to sling it. I think he goes over 300 yards passing today. Someone asked about another prop, another quarterback I like. Plus 150, you get Russell Wilson over 2.5 touchdowns. I think that's in play as well. But I like Herbert quite a bit. I've got him in a lot of DFS lineups, especially in that afternoon slate. There's going to be points here. The Chargers put up a fight. They just don't know how to win close games, and I'm not sure they want to win those close games now. So I like the Raiders. I think the Raiders win this game, and I got him at a pick 'em. I'll take it.
Talking about points, talking about slinging it around, talking about moving up and down the field. You know it. We're talking about those Dallas Cowboys today, Kyle. Now the spotlight has come. The 425 Fox game that everybody outside of my house in New Jersey does not care about. I care about it because I have a personal stake in this game. So let's get to it. 469, 470, Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger, fresh off their victory over their hated division rival, the Baltimore Ravens. See one of those spots where they can sort of, decompress, take that deep breath and smell the fresh air and say, this is going to be nice and easy, because you're not getting Dak Prescott in that full go offense. You're now getting Garrett Gilbert. But here's the interesting part of this, Kyle. It opens up at 41 as a total. We saw how horrific Ben DiNucci was last week. And after the game, and even early on Monday, what were the Dallas Cowboys saying? Oh, well, it looks like Dalton's got COVID, so back to Ben DiNucci. And everybody's like, you got to be kidding me. No number is enough for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now as the week shifts, we're talking about Joe Montana and Steve Young rescuing the day, being Cooper Rush, and also now who's going to start for them, Garrett Gilbert. And yes, they look like Steve Young and Joe Montana compared to Ben DiNucci, and none of those guys have any extensive history in the NFL. So that number goes from 41 up to 44. The number, which started at 13.5, crested yesterday at around that 14.5, 15. Now we're seeing that even shot 14 across the board. Yeah. The Steelers should win this game by 14. They really should win this by 14, because you don't know what you're getting out of Garrett Gilbert. But if I get Dallas at 7 or 9 points in this game, you might not, like I always joke with you, Kyle, like, hey, this could be your last show. This could be my last show if Dallas does not get 13 or more points.
We need just for the safety of the entire nation. Just on Alex Trebek Day, we need the Cowboys just to get to that 14 points. I'm going to be rooting for it. I personally am not betting that. That's absolutely. But I mean, now you have a banged up Zeke Elliott as well for Dallas, battling this little hamstring. It looks like he's going to play. All indications are he's going to play. Again, doesn't matter that much. Pittsburgh 5th in the league against the run. Very, very good defense. Pittsburgh should absolutely beat the brakes off of Dallas. I think I made this. I did like I always do, where I do one parlay where I pick every single game and try to get them all right just for fun. I just throw a few bucks on it. And so I took the Pittsburgh money line just because I didn't even want to mess with it, and didn't add a lot of juice to it, but just enough to make it worth it. But yeah, Pittsburgh should win by 2 touchdowns. I mean, let's say this. We're getting a score prediction. Let's do this just so that Donnie's happy. Let's say 41-14.
41. I like that. Yeah.
41-14 Pittsburgh. James Conner and that running game have a big day. Watch out for Smith-Schuster in the slot today if you're playing DFS. Because, even though we say it, maybe not be doing much in the fourth quarter because they have a big lead. But you get 2 touchdowns on the way to that big lead. You've had a good DFS day. He's getting Jordan Lewis in the slot, the worst slot corner in the entire National Football League. Love Juju Smith-Schuster. Deontay Johnson's in play. Chase Claypool line up your Steelers and hope they get all the points they're going to get within 3 quarters, because that fourth quarter is going to go by quickly and it's going to be boring. And that's probably when we're going to be rooting for Donnie for Dallas to get to that 14 as it's sitting there at 41-10 and there's 5 minutes left and Cooper Rush has replaced Garrett Gilbert. And oh boy.
The tough part about it too is because you saw it last week with Ben DiNucci in the game, 2 minutes ago, no timeouts. The Eagles couldn't care if they scored, and Dallas still couldn't cobble anything together, even though they got inside the 15-yard line and then threw a 1-yard pass, hoping that the wide receiver, could run 14 yards into the end zone. So unbelievable game plan there by the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see if it changes today. But I have this around 30-17. Not to say I love Dallas to cover, but I do think they're going to hang around. All it takes is a quarterback that has been around the NFL and can hand off and play pitch and catch. You're going to score points in the NFL because, again, you're not coming into this game like you are the New York Jets. When Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco lines up, he looks at his wide receivers and his running backs and goes, oh, my God, I might die today. But that's not the case with the Dallas Cowboys. They don't have a great offensive line, but you're talking about 3 wide receivers that can win one-on-one battles in a decent running game. You should be functional in the NFL. So we'll see how it plays out today. And again, we're not worried about rain, windy conditions. You're down in Jerry World in Dallas. Good game at 4 o'clock here and a lot of line movement. 471, 472. Miami and Arizona. Tua Tagovailoa didn't have to do much last week. The Dolphins had a great game plan defensively and on special teams, basically cashing in for 21 points. If Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins want to win this game, you can't factor on roughly 3 touchdowns coming non-offensively. So they're going to have to move the football, and we'll see what Tua shows up today. I like Kyler Murray. I like the Dolphins defense. I do. But it comes down to the fact of the matter is if Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing for the Miami Dolphins, I would feel much better about getting the 6 points that it now sits across the board. And also a PSA, I have a couple people asked me this morning and also yesterday, there was a line that didn't make a lot of sense to me. It was Arizona -3.5, -120 that was showing up at FanDuel. The rest of the board had 5 to 5.5. I always take value on the board, even if I'm not necessarily looking at that game. If I can get a number that's 2 points below market value, I'm taking it automatically and see where it winds up. So now I sit at the 3.5 and it's 6s across the board. Even though I technically don't love the game from that perspective, I actually like the under 49 much more than I do the game itself. But I do think Arizona gets a win here. I would be shocked if the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa go in and beat Arizona in this game. Not to say Miami's not a good football team, Kyle. I think I need to see it out of Tua before I bet it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you look at last week, he had 90 yards. The last first-round quarterback to have 90 or fewer yards passing and win their first start was your boy, Donovan McNabb, back in 1999 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And look, it was fluky. You know, you had the punt returns and the turnovers. I don't think you see that coming, Arizona coming off a bye. I know they're minus Kenyon Drake. Chase Edmonds will fill in just fine. I actually got this at -4.5 early in the week, so I got some value back. And you're right. If you're looking at books across the board and it's -6 and you're getting 3.5 somewhere else, that you have to tell yourself when you're betting games, there's got to be a line for every team that you would bet. If you're not doing that, you are closing yourself off to possible value and you're doing things wrong. So you're absolutely right to take that. I like Arizona. I think Arizona can certainly win this game by a touchdown. I think their defense gives Miami fits today. Again, no Myles Gaskin, no Matt Breida. So you're going to see Patrick Laird and Jordan Howard toting the rock from Miami with the rookie quarterback. Then you've got Patrick Peterson shadowing Devontae Parker, essentially eliminating your best weapon in the passing game. So you're hoping that Tua's athleticism and, that maybe you can get the ball to Preston Williams and, Jakeem Grant. Is there a defense more prepared to face a running quarterback than a team that sees Kyler Murray all week? I think the Cardinals win this game. I think they win it pretty easy. I was happy to get the 4.5, and I would even take it at the -6. The 7's probably pushing it for me. I see a 1-7 out there. Where does that at Bet Online? The -6, still, that would be a little more nervous, but I do think Arizona wins this game by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that. I do think they win this game by a touchdown, but also that line stayed at like 4.5 all week. And I'm looking and say it doesn't really make all that much sense. Dip down even lower, but open up at 47 as a total. Now we're seeing 49s, 48.5s. I like the under 49 in this game, and that simply comes down to I like Arizona's offense, but the Dolphins have a decent defense. And when you flip it over, look at Tua Tagovailoa. Are we throwing the ball 35 to 40 times with Tua, or are we going to use his athleticism? Let's pick up the first down on 3rd and 3 as opposed to taking deep shots. That's the way I see this game playing out. But But it is hard to take unders with the Arizona Cardinals because of how fast they move on offense and how dynamic and electric they are. How about tonight's game, Kyle? And a lot of line movement in this one, and I completely agree with it. 473, 474, a great game to be on Sunday Night Football. That's New Orleans and Tampa Bay, and getting them at the right time, which means Antonio Brown's going to be going. Michael Thomas is going to go. Godwin is going to be back. Everybody full thrusters in this game. Over-under opens up at 54, but that's dipped down. You got 50.5s across the board in this game. They are two good defenses, but you have two elite offenses with all their weapons back. When we were taking a look at just a couple weeks ago, the New Orleans Saints down 3 of their starting wide receivers, all 3 back. And it's not like you're getting back to 3 run-of-the-mill guys. Emmanuel Sanders, decent number 2 wide receiver, and Michael Thomas is the ultimate number 1 to throw him in with Alvin Kamara and a resurgence from Jared Cook at tight end. And then you flip it over to Tampa Bay, who might have been missing a little bit last week with the Giants in the cold weather and windy conditions, Kyle. Still 23 first downs out of Tampa Bay last week. Now you're getting 2 A-plus weapons back in the fold and going back into temperatures in the mid-70s at night. A little windy, 15, 16, 17 miles an hour, but that's typical Florida weather. That line opened up at 5.5, Kyle. Now sits at 3.5 with light juice across the board. Chris offshore is actually showing a -3, -119, and I agree with that. Early in the week, I was able to get on my Pick 6 contest, looking at it right now, 5.5 for the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to stick with that. They'll be in it to the end. I like the Saints in this game to get the cover.
Yeah, now that it's down to 3.5, I think I'm probably going to lean more Tampa Bay, just simply because Drew Brees is just not the same Drew Brees on the road. We've talked about it all year, probably beat that like a dead horse, but the fact simply remains that he's not. And, a little bit of revenge week 1 in New Orleans. We saw it. The Saints got the better of Tampa Bay. It was Brady's first game with the team. That defense is just getting better and better. The Saints secondary, even though they're pretty good, they've been sort of vulnerable this year. When you look at the Tampa Bay secondary, they haven't been. They've really shored that up. They're the best team in the NFL against the run. This is going to be a ton of fun. I didn't bet this game. I just wanted to sit back and watch it. Now that I'm looking at the 3s and 3.5s, I'll probably put a little bit down on Tampa Bay. I just think their defense is a little bit better. And, now they've got the best wide receiver trio in the NFL. How does Michael Thomas look tonight? Is he fully engaged? Is he done pouting? Is he done being weird?
Or does he sit out at the last minute to show his point again, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. And let's not forget, Drew Brees has been battling a sore shoulder all week long. So now you take some wind on the road, outdoors, and a banged up wing for Drew Brees. He's been battling that all week. I got to lean Tampa Bay in this one. I think I'm going to take the Bucs here. And if the number makes you uncomfortable, just take the money line on it, because I think Tampa Bay wins tonight.
Should be a great game. Looking forward to a great way to end your Sunday, and certainly spending with us today, setting up 1 o'clock. A couple minutes left here in the show. Let's go over some picks here. Me and Kyle do our best bets and bankers. We put those out a little bit earlier in the week, and mine was on the Baltimore Ravens today. Not going to shy away from it. I got it at -1.5. If you're looking across the board right now, roughly -1s across the board. So in effect, if you like the Baltimore Ravens to win the football game, hey, if they lose 30-29 or they win 30-29, I can't cover that, then, shame on me for doing that. But I think they win the football game. I'm going to go with that one. Also, stick to my guns all week long. I've been talking a lot of smack there, saying Seattle's going to go in and beat Buffalo. I have to take them and back that up. And I do think they're going to go in and beat Buffalo. Again, normally a spot I would love the Bills, just not today. I'm going to take Seattle minus the 3 points in that game on game day. And also, again, the Miami-Arizona Cardinals game under 49. I'm going to go with that as well. Great day of football, Kyle. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, first prop bet that I like, again, Russell Wilson over 2.5 touchdowns, plus 150 over at William Hill. I love that. I love that prop bet. I'm right there with you with Baltimore and Seattle. Both of those are 2 of my favorite picks this week. I will also say I think the Cardinals win by a touchdown or more. I like Arizona in that game. And one more that I'm really starting to lean towards more and more as I think about it. I like Tampa Bay -3, -3.5 over the New Orleans Saints tonight.
Got you guys out. Money is time, and time is money. 5 minutes ago to a kickoff. Thank you guys for spending your Sunday morning / afternoon with us, getting you right up to that 1 o'clock kickoff. And hopefully we gave you some information that you can win some of your bets on. Good stuff. Me and Kyle love doing the show. Keep in mind, we'll be back tomorrow for a Monday Night Football live betting party. Yes, with Joe Flacco and the New York Jets. We put in the hard work right here at sportsbookreview.com. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com. Thank you for tuning in today to the closing line, week 9. Good luck on your plays today.